The world is opening up and glamping and unique holiday rentals are getting so much attention at the moment. But with this comes extra competition. So one of the ways you can counteract that and get more bookings and launch your business is with powerful publicity. Welcome to episode 42. Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome, this is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Hello and welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. To say I'm excited about this one is an understatement. So I have been talking to some friends of mine and you know what? They have been incredibly generous and they have offered their support to you to help you generate powerful publicity for your business. Now, one of those friends is Tanya Lynch. Now, I've known Tanya for a very long time. She is a creative ball of energy. I don't know where she gets her energy from, to be honest with you, but it's amazing and infectious and inspirational when you're talking to her. And Tanya and I have known each other for many years, actually. Our paths crossed years ago when we talked about setting up the first glamping show in the UK. Now we went down the path of doing everything that we should do to plan it, to, get domains in place, to actually planning and thinking about the event as a whole and how it would work. And we had some real fun planning all of that. But unfortunately, because of life circumstances and other things, it didn't go ahead. But, it is still running now with our friends at the glamping show. But nevertheless, Tanya and I did spend a lot of time together working on different event ideas, a bit of media, a bit of other stuff that goes on because Tanya is a media expert. She's spent over a decade working in regional commercial radio. She's headed up all kinds of sales in marketing, sponsorship, promotions. She now works predominantly in Wales in the UK and she helps support small businesses. She's a self-employed lifestyle individual. She likes to focus on business models that gives her the lifestyle she wants, and her lifestyle choice is to actually hang out on the beach as much as possible, particularly in West Wales, and to just enjoy her freelance life of supporting different brands, helping them with their media strategy and also their business development projects. And she has her own side project as well, which is Ease Retreats. And Tanya was brilliant because she came and spoke to us in the masterclass recently and shared a whole heap of knowledge and guidance and superb tips that everyone went away with and said they felt really inspired for what they knew they could now do armed with that knowledge. And there's highs and lows in this business, and Tanya has experienced that too, particularly around COVID and what's been happening with the different industries being pulled back. She's had to pause her own retreats company over the last year, but she's really looking forward to a launch in 2022. And that's exactly what a lot of other businesses are now looking to do. And if you are one of them, if you are already operating and you're looking at how can you increase your guest bookings, well, you can do that through powerful publicity. But also if you're a new business and you're looking to launch, you're looking to get a following, you're looking to get some kudos, some social proof going to reassure people that you're a trustworthy business, well, the media can help you with that. And there's lots of different types of media media. There's lots of different categories. Some are easier than others to get into. Each one needs a slightly different approach, but they can bring different benefits that will come back and suit you for what you're hoping to gain from that work. Now, Tanya sat and talked to me for a little while about what she would recommend businesses focus on, particularly in terms of the realities and the mutual benefits of generating powerful publicity. But it was also amazing to be joined by Louise Goss, who is the founder of The Homeworker magazine. And all the links to all of this, as usual, are in the show notes. And as this is episode 42, all you need to do is go to inspiredcamping.com/042, and that will take you straight to the show notes with all the links that you need to click to find out more about these lovely ladies. So Louise, she has a magazine which is dedicated to helping people thrive when they work from home. So in this industry, that's pretty much everyone. Not necessarily working from home in terms of an office. Many people work from an off-grid location, in a field, in a shed or a cabin, or a barrel-top wagon or a shepherd's hut. There's all kinds of spaces where people work from. I work from my own vintage caravan, and I mix that with a bit of time in the summer with my Lotus Bell tent, and it's really nice to get those different perspectives when you're working outside, you know, those different spaces, and to make them really cozy with all interiors and everything else. It's just lovely. The home worker environment is really important to focus on. So Louise was shortlisted for the launch of the year by the British Society of Magazine Editors because her Homeworker magazine provides all kinds of expert insights, tips and resources to help people achieve a happier, healthier, more productive work from home lifestyle. And I'm all for that, as a huge big thumbs up from me. So Louise herself is an award-winning journalist and mum of two. She has worked across a range of media from TV, radio, digital, regional, national, international newsrooms and so on. She really has got a huge amount of experience, which also includes producing, writing and editing. And this is around news reading and reporting in front of the camera and live on air. She really is a font of knowledge in all of this. She herself has worked from home for over a decade, and she launched the Homeworker in 2019. And so you'll actually hear her talk about how this whole thing has exploded as more people are working from home, even if they were based from an office pre-pandemic. Lots of people are now at home. So she has been in demand by lots of different outlets who want to hear her perspective on what the home working vibe is at the moment, what's going on in this whole area, and whether people are actually benefiting from it, whether they're not, and all kinds of other things linked to home working. So I would absolutely recommend you check those two lovely ladies out through the links that I provide in the show notes. And I'm going to share with you now a conversation we had around all kinds of things, including the benefits of working with journalists and the media, how that if a small business decides to approach a journalist or the media, then what their first step should be, about how to pitch in particular. This is something that many people struggle with, although it's not something that you should be fearful of. There is a template, there is a format, and I am sharing all of this and more in my own masterclass. So this masterclass is going to be covering so many different elements to help you attract more media attention launch your business and boost your bookings, even if you're not comfortable being in the spotlight. There's all kinds of things to help you develop your secret sauce, your approach. There's done for you pitch templates and strategies. You get time with some experts to be able to ask them questions, even someone from the glamping industry who was recently featured on TV. Yes, TV is also media on every level, and there's so many things we can learn from those people who have done it, and they've been there. They know what works and what doesn't. But also I'm going to be sharing some of my trade secrets from my little black book that helped me get my business into the Daily Mail, the Metro, and all kinds of other magazines and media outlets. So this is something I'm really passionate about, because in terms of small businesses, it's really misunderstood about how you can work with the media to benefit your business. And there's simple steps you can take. All you need to know is the approach, what the journalists need, what the people need who you're working with in the media, and how you can give it to them in a way that is perfectly easy for them, so they're definitely going to choose you above others. So let's go on over to the interview now. Listen to some of the amazing insights from both Tanya and Louise, and listen carefully, because they do share some amazing inner circle secrets in this interview. And if you want to listen to the whole thing, including tips on how to get seriously involved with media outlets such as the BBC, then please do join me for my powerful publicity masterclass. Now, this is taking place on the 24th of June, but it will be recorded, and so you will be able to access the recording if you're not available to attend to this live event on the 24th of June. It's live because you will be able to ask your questions live, and from everything that I've done, all the masterclasses I've held, from the training that I do, I know that attendees always get so much benefit from being able to speak to the experts in the room and ask the questions that they need to ask to get the clarity that they need. And that's why it's live, but it will be recorded. So if you want to go and sign up to that, then please do. You can find that over at inspiredcourses.com/publicity, and I'd love to see you there, because actually we're going to have a bit of a party. I'm going to show you behind the curtain so that you understand you can get this amazing, powerful publicity for your business, and I can't wait to share it all with you. So without further delay, here's Louise and Tanya. So fantastic of you to join me here. Thank you so much. Under these conditions, what a crazy world it is at the moment, but we are opening up. Finally, things are starting to look a bit brighter in the UK and across the world, in fact. And so I'll start with you, Tanya. And I was just wondering, since the pandemic, what's the number one thing that's changed for you?
Do you know what? I'll probably answer that on a business and a personal note. So personally, it's actually slowed me down, because I'm a bit of a road runner. Busy, love the speed of everything, love new projects. And it just made me sit with my thoughts a lot. And I've learned to journal. And yeah, I think I've had more positives personally than expected, because there's a lot more quality family time, and just to take life in the slow lane and embrace it and live with less. I'm a great lover of the beach. I live in a coastal resort in Wales. I was born in North, raised in the Mid, and now I'm in South. So, I think I know every corner of Wales at the moment. Now, from a business perspective, I suppose it's like a creative media hub. So I help other businesses find their way with media marketing and sales. But I also have a side project, which is a retreats business. And that's another story. We'll get onto that later.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about the retreats, because I know everyone will be really interested in that. But first of all, because we're talking about PR and we're talking about media, I want to introduce Louise. Louise is, part of the Homeworker magazine, and I'm really interested in what's changed for you since this has all happened and everything's gone a bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so the Homeworker magazine is for people who work from home. So as you can imagine, suddenly that potential audience exploded in 2020. So It's been quite a busy time, and it's been obviously we've seen a lot more interest in our content and the magazine itself, and the website traffic went a bit bonkers while everybody started working remotely. So from a business point of view, in some ways it's been quite positive. It's also personally, from the business point of view, has given me quite a lot more opportunities, for getting exposure. And I've, been asked to talk about a lot of things around working from home, deliver speeches and talks, and be on media as well. So that side of things sort of changed and ramped up quite quickly. And I think, like Tanya said, actually, on a personal level, it just forced me to slow down. And we've obviously had a lot of more time together as a family, which has been quite nice. So obviously there have been quite a lot of uncertainties and anxieties as well to deal with, but overall I've tried to embrace the positives in a situation. So it's been an interesting time, a busy time, but also quite nice as a family to have been able to reconnect a bit more and slow down.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that completely. It's been nuts, but the connections and time I've had with my family have been something I've not had before. Now, we've lost Tanya, but I'm sure she'll pop back soon. So the world is opening up, things are changing. We're seeing more people who are home working. And would you say that you offer a bit of support through your home working magazine? Is that something that you're aiming to do?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the whole reason behind setting up the Home Worker, which was back in 2019, so actually before COVID came along, but it was always about supporting people and sort of just giving them some of the tools and techniques, tips, various things to help them. I sort of frame it as very a holistic view of working from home, but to help them in all aspects. Because actually, the reason it's a magazine really is because it focuses not just on the business side of things, but it's on the well-being, it's on your workspace, it's on how you communicate, it's how you sort of your lifestyle, it's your productivity. So all of those things are so integrated when you work from home that the magazine it's why it's a magazine. It sort of covers all of those different aspects of home working. So it really just helps people, yes, be more productive, but also be healthier, be happier, and sort of just live better. I think when all of those things work together, then everything else works, and it has quite a big ripple effect into other areas of our life. So it was sort of helps people get a really solid foundation to working from home.
And I think it's maybe as well, I don't know if you agree with this, Tanya, but certainly at the beginning when I was in corporate, my dream was to work from home, and I focused on that a lot. And I then finally got to work from home, and there's some real challenges of working from home and being your own boss, and having your own business and doing whatever you need to do to run that business. And so it's really nice to have that support in place. And one of the things that my audience often talk about is about getting more promotions for their business so that they can become more visible and they can attract more guests, because there's no point in having these amazing structures that people have put their heart and soul into setting up, and then unfortunately they can't actually find the guests to fill the beds. And one of the things they could obviously pay more attention to is the media and getting in the media, but so many business owners, small business owners, feel that that's out of their reach. Is that something you agree with as well, Tanya?
Well, it's interesting because I've worked in the media, in radio, newspapers and magazines, run my own magazine. I have to step out of it sometimes to go, why is it so difficult for people to understand how much that we're just another human being? I always try and tell my friends now that, you're at dinner with me, the contacts I have, the skills and the career I've had. If you have a story, why not talk to me about it, even for a chat? Because one of the things is that you just don't know who within your network actually is in the media, or their husband or their wife could be in the media. We've got to get away from these barriers of going, I'm not worthy. The one thing at the moment in the media is that they need good, interesting content. And if everybody looks at their story as interesting interesting content, then you should really be awash with moments in your day of, why am I not speaking to all these other journalists and media contacts? Because they could be your friend. It's just because at the moment you've not met them. It's not as simple, I know we'll get on to very structured question and answers now about, the tips and the tricks. But I do think that as small business owners have to be proud of what we've achieved and what you're offering within the tourism and hospitality industry. And it is doing an injustice to the British tourism industry if you're not highlighting, the fabulous places that you have.
Absolutely. Do you find the same in your world, Louise? Do you find that it's actually, the media is not off limits? It's about making sure that you can find a way in and sharing your story in a really good way. Is that something you agree with?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that because perhaps Tanya obviously mentioned it there about, you might know somebody in media and you just don't realize, but it feels perhaps a bit off limits because we don't actually understand it, or people generally don't understand how it works and who's in it, and anything that you don't fully understand or seems a little bit distant suddenly can seem off limits to you. So actually, I think that's probably why. But as Tanya said, we need stories. If something is newsworthy, it's because it's a story, and stories are about people, and we're all people, and we all have stories. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to share and tell your story and have your business in the media. It's just about finding the right media and the right angle, because it isn't obviously just as simple as knowing someone and suddenly you'll be able to get in, because we all have various agendas and editorial calendars that we work to, and there are various things you need to sort of appreciate, I suppose, that. And also, as a journalist, we get a lot of pitches and a lot of emails, and so that makes it quite difficult as well. And I think that people can perhaps get a bit disheartened sometimes if they do email somebody or contact somebody in the media and don't get an instant reply. And to be honest, I'm a smaller publication, I'm not the Times or the Telegraph, but I get dozens and dozens of emails from PRs and pitches every day. So it is hard sometimes to cut through. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that. But it's definitely not off limits. It's just about finding the right angle and the right place to pitch.
And so do you think that there's any benefits specifically for people who try to get their story in a magazine? Have you had any experience? Have you had a situation with somebody who's done that with you, that they've actually been able to get their story in your magazine and then things have happened, the balls have rolled? Is that something you've seen, Louise?
Yeah, definitely. It's been really nice, actually. So, we do. So in the homework, I do profile people who are sort of home business owners. And we talk a bit about them and their business and sort of share a few tips and things. And it depends who. There's all kind of different, the range of people who work from home is quite varied. So, but I've had people say, oh, do you know what? You mentioned me on social media, for instance, because I was in the magazine, and then I had somebody read an article about me that was in a magazine, and they've gained clients through that. So it does, that has happened. I have people who are in my directory as well. We have a directory of people who can sort of, for outsourcing services, like, accountants or web designers and those sorts of things. So people who are useful to small business owners, and they found clients through being in there as well. So I think there's definite benefits to it. There's definite, sometimes it's not just about getting clients or sales either. And I think that has to be something we have to be realistic about. So just appearing one time in the media might not necessarily suddenly generate a lot of extra revenue, but what it does do is increase your brand exposure. And that, particularly on a more ongoing basis, is obviously, so when you become front of mind when people are thinking about something. So it might not that day generate a sale, but it might be something that someone goes, oh, do you know what, that would be really good, and in a couple of months time I really want to go and book my holiday there or something. So it's sort of thinking about it, you know, the bigger picture as well.
Absolutely. Tan, have you experienced that with any small business owners, that they've been involved in the media? I mean, you've been involved very much with radio and TV. Have you seen something happen where doors have opened as a result of an appearance?
Oh, it's catapulted some small brands, and not so just about them as an individual setup or establishment. What we've been great in some of the projects that I've worked on in media is looking at a community. So sometimes there will be a glamping site and then a water sports business, and then there's a deli, and it's the connections, joining the dots between all those brands within a community that will put them on the map more. So I've always encouraged people to, even if now is not the moment for your story, you know, watch what your neighbors are doing and your business associates and any collaborations you're doing. And then in time, and you see this happening in magazines like Coast, you know, because she's constantly, that editor, trying to keep a tribe moving, because not only are the people, the brands, are the stories, but they're her customers as well. You know, they're buying the magazine or they're recommending the magazine. So yes, I could write a book about the amount of stories, and you know, just sometimes you've got to kick yourself because you think, look at how that brand is doing, from just, you know, having a beehive, and now that the honey's gone, you know, mainstream or in Liberties or something. You know, and I think that's the reward of, I think, working in the industry that we're working in.
Yeah. And certainly from my perspective, I always see that the most benefit happens after the event. So they may well have been picked up by a magazine such as Homeworker or something else, and they've been featured, and then time passes, nothing really happens. But then if leveraged right, then the kudos, the reputation does rub off. People do see that you've been featured by magazines, and then they may think of inviting you into projects or whatever else it might be, or getting you involved in something that might bring more guests or more results. And so it definitely, you know, these things happen often afterwards. And so immediately, it's not always that instant result, and no one should really expect that to be the case. But yeah, the after effect is fantastic. So what do you think are the first steps for that a small business might be able to take to approach a journalist or a magazine or an editor or something like that, to try to get their business noted and a bit more publicity? What do you think? If I start with you, Louise, what do you think the first steps are for you from your point of view?
So I think it starts actually by knowing really clearly what you want to get out of the publicity as well, and look at where you want to pitch that story or idea, because you know, it will vary very much between whether it's a magazine or a local newspaper or something perhaps more national, or whether it's TV or radio, because obviously the formats are very different. And, you know, some are going to be very visual, some are going to be more about the words. And it's actually thinking about what you want to get out of it and where you want to be seen and be featured, because also there might be certain publications that aren't right for you, and actually it's really important to know what those publications or that media outlet is, what it's like. You know, do the research and find out what their audience is, and you know, who they talk to. Because you know, if you're you know, wanting to attract millennials and you're pitching to Radio 4 who have a much older, you know, that's not going to work. I mean, that, you know, so that's just an example, but it's, you know, you've really got to sort of understand who you're pitching to actually, and trying to foster those relationships. You know, as I say, we're journalists, we're people, we're humans. We like to connect, we like to talk to people. So if you can do that and find somebody, get a name, and use the name, I say that's also a very important point from the very beginning. You know, the number of emails I get where I just go, hello, the Homeworker. You know, it's like I you know, if I'm going to filter through my emails, then that's the one that's going to get put in the bin.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I say is I know that we can't do that at the moment because of the fact that most of the shops are shut. But when they're open again, we could go to the newsagents section, and just look at the magazines and see, browse through them, see which ones are appropriate, see which ones maybe have similar stories to the ones that we want to share, those kinds of things. So that's a really early step. But Tanya, can you think of something that a small business owner could do?
Yes, what's key also, and a priority that you should do, is have a media toolkit. And what I mean by that is that if you've already pitched to a journalist or an editor and told your story, then they, if they're interested, will want to come back to you, and they'll want images, they'll want your logo, they want your website. Make sure that all your social media profiles are seamless, so that this is your one opportunity to launch pad your story. And it's just a very useful exercise that you update your media toolkit. So it's almost like in your media toolkit, you'd have all your contacts for your media. It's like having a database or a spreadsheet. As you develop through becoming more of a marketing pro, you should, when you've met the editor of the Home Worker magazine, put the details, describe what your conversation was like with Louise. Was there anything that she highlighted that maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, there'll be something else as a topic within the magazine that might suit you? So then you have time to prep, thinking, gosh, yes, we've got a glamping site, but we're going to add an activity, and we're going to collaborate with a local water sports company. So make sure you've got your story with her. Go back to Louise and say, look, we've even got photos. The water sports company are wearing a t-shirt with our logo on. There's all these little dynamics that could be going. You look like you know what you're doing within your business on a marketing level. And what it does, it makes the journalist and the editor's job easier.
Absolutely.
I would say the pictures actually are really important. I mean, particularly obviously for magazines, but if you can get some really good quality, professional photographs, and also think about getting them in a variety of get some landscape, get some portrait. I mean, even little things like that are really key, because that's going to be useful. That's going to make the editor's decision about which one they use, whether yours goes front and center or not. Because if you've got a nice variety there, and you've got some color, and they're nice professional photos, and if you've got products, I would say some of the lifestyle photos are really important. But if you've got a product business, or you're wanting to focus on a particular product, then make sure you have some cutout images as well, particularly for magazines.
With a transparent background, you mean?
The transparent background.
Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed, so in a past role that I had, I was a project manager for a coffee table book for a book author. And she had a whole load of projects that she could choose from, to pick, to decide to have that that particular thing featured in her book. And it was my job to go and speak to each of those people. And one of the defining things was, if they had one of those press packs, press kit, media kit, whatever you want to call it, that was a step that got that person, that business, that one step further than everybody else who maybe didn't have one. And as you're saying, had all those elements in it, the right media, in the right landscape or portrait, the right size, the right pixels. This absolutely made our job easier, and therefore really did push that person at the front of the queue. So I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. And so Louise, in your work with the magazine, have you ever experienced a business pitch that's worked particularly well, or even in a previous role, as you are an award-winning journalist as well, have you had anything come across your desk and you've just thought, wow, that's good, that really got my attention? Timing, topic, the style of pitch, any of those things that really made you go
no, I definitely have. And like you say, I've done TV, I've done radio, I've done magazines. I've obviously now run my own, but there have been so many that over the years that I'm sort of thinking about which ones have really stood out. And to be honest, they do stand out, and I'll tell you why, because sadly you get a lot that are really bad, which is why the good ones do stand out. And I think that so much of it is about, getting that headline right. If your subject line in your email is going to grab my attention and I know that it's relevant, then I'm much more likely to open it. I mean, the sort of more spammy, clickbaity kind of headlines are not going to. And also, again, you get a lot that aren't relevant. So for me, if your email, first of all, I want to open it, so make that subject line enticing. But equally, when I then open it, I don't want and I don't have time to read reams and reams of your backstory. As interesting as that might be what we get into later. But you just want the sort of the pithy, the core of what your story is and how you can help me, actually. Because as much as we want your stories and we love hearing them, it's also not our job to feature you. You have to make our job, there is a bit of work on your part in that you need to make it an easy job for us to go, yeah, this is why we want to feature you. This is why you're interesting. So a couple of lines of intro and some bullet points about your story, why it's relevant, and make it really clear that you obviously know the publication or the media that you're pitching to, and that you can see, right, okay, I know where this will fit. And I know that this story is going to be relevant to my audience. Then that's going to, instantly say, you've set the bar there with, okay, I can. You've also shown that you're quite reliable and that you know what you're talking about, and that helps too.
Absolutely. How about you, Tanya? Have you seen anything that or experienced any pitches and you thought, wow, that really hit the mark?
Yeah, there's one brand in Wales, and their strapline is helping save the world one wash at a time. And they're an eco-friendly brand of hand wash and body lotions, and now they've gone into unisex perfume, and their branding is very clean and refreshing. And what caught my eye with that brand particularly was they knew where they wanted to go. They had benchmarked off other products and they didn't have big marketing budgets, so they had to be very creative and they had to lean on a lot of people that they knew within their community. So it's they've come from a little small town in Wales, and their aim is to be in the bigger stores in the bigger cities, not only in the UK but abroad. And they've also said, within any article that I'd interviewed them for, is that they want to enjoy this journey. They're not expecting stardom and they're not expecting to be multimillionaires, but they've chosen to come out of their corporate job into a lifestyle business, and they're reminding themselves on a monthly basis, even though it's frantic and it's hectic and it's stressful, we chose this for a reason, because we have a purpose, and we that ethos in our brand we stand by. And I think that's a key thing, is that as journalists and editors, we can suss those that are not true to form.
Absolutely. Those that aren't really sticking to brand and aren't sticking to their mission. And in my industry, with unique holiday rentals, with people who are setting up eco-accommodation, eco-retreats, or running eco-retreats and things like that. And that's somebody who's experienced in retreats and organising retreats. If you were a small business owner, Tanya, would, in this niche, so in the eco-accommodation niche, what would you do to try to get noticed by the media? I'm putting you on the spot now a little bit, but is there something that you could see from this industry that would really maybe get noticed more if an owner did that to try to get noticed by the media?
I think being as honest and as transparent with your stories, because again, you're not the only one going through this pandemic. Everybody is. So the fact that people are trying to, whoever they're trying to be, it's not affecting us, we're still happy and positive and business is flowing. Well, no, it's tough. And, myself with the retreats, it was a big decision for me to put it on hold to 2022 because, I felt for the guests that I was constantly putting them off and saying, I won't take a deposit, but I just don't know what's around the corner. I don't know when Wales is going to open again and how it's going to be safe. But I still had to carry on with my stories. I went on video for a bit. I'm a bit of a crazy chick at times because I'm like, I'd like to change things up a bit and, just put it out there. And I think the thing is with media and marketing, everybody's all a bit safe. They just go, oh, what if I write this? And then they think that, well, if that was the case, and every time we put a story out, everybody saw it and everybody read it, well, we would, we'd be on our yachts, wouldn't we? We'd be just not working. So I think you've got to use the time, in a crisis sometimes, just to be a little bit more, creative. Just try a different medium.
Yeah. And do you think that would work, Louise? Would that get your attention?
I was just thinking actually, because I mean, when you think about the tourism industry and say you got a campsite or something, and you might think of some more niche publications where you go, well, I'll just pitch to something to do with the tourist industry. But I think actually, particularly now, it's important to look at the bigger picture, look at wider conversations that are happening that are kind of perhaps more on the news radar or that might be picked up, and how you can contribute to those conversations and stories that are happening as well. Because, I'm thinking of an article that I did, for instance, which was not about tourism at all, but it was around how lockdown has affected gender equality, right? So it's something quite different. But I wasn't just looking to speak to somebody who is an expert on gender equality. I spoke to so many small business owners because they had experience that were relevant to that story. And therefore, I was able to mention them and give their business a mention. So I think it's also looking at what else could you contribute to in terms of what's going on, and not be too sort of narrowly focused, because there are lots of things happening that you might still have an experience or a story that could still be featured, therefore, in the media. And I think, if you're coming up with, if you've got particular events or maybe giveaways, or you're doing a special promotion, think about what some of these publications might be running. I mean, they may do sort of gift guides, or they might be looking at what are you doing for Mother's Day or Valentine's Day or key parts of the year. And those sorts of awareness days are really good to keep an eye on, because you could then say promote that you're having a special couples event or something for and promote that in the various gift guides. So it's kind of looking ahead, thinking about things that are coming up and pitching in good time so that you can, perhaps get on their radar to be featured in those sorts of things as well.
Whoa. Tanya and Louise, I'm going to have to stop you there. That's too many trade secrets in one go. I know you've got so many other things to share, but in terms of the podcast, that's as much as I'm going to share here. If you want to hear the rest of the tips shared by Tanya and Louise, and they are epic and they are immense. And in fact, even though I've been involved in this industry and publicity and media for a very long time, actually, a few of those were really new to me. So I'm going to be using them myself for my own business. So, as I said, this is going to be shared in full, this interview, in my Powerful Publicity Masterclass. So if you'd like to sign up there and join me and my guests live to learn about how you can use the power of publicity to generate more bookings, to get your business launched, and to really give it a huge boost of potential, then go over to inspiredcourses.com/publicity and join us there. We'd really like to see you, and I hope you come back and join me here again on the podcast. Take care out there. See you soon.